Sage 50 Cloud Pastel Accounting topic webinar. My name is Joanne Barnard and I will be your host for today. So guys, in today's topic, what we're going to be discussing is take-on balances. Now, take-on balances is critical if you're moving from, say, a different accounting program to Pastel, and you obviously want to keep your totals and make sure that your books are as accurate as possible, but it can also be really important if you need to create a new company, but you can't create a copy company. So guys, you need to create a new company, and even if you create a copy company, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have the history. So there may be a number of reasons why you need to create a new company. You may be getting a lot of errors on your old company, a lot of data integrity errors, and your network has been checked to make sure that that's sound, that they can't really find any issues. It could just be that you've been running the same company for 10 years. While yes, deleting some history may help, it may also just be that the files are fragmented. It happens in old Windows. We used to, of course, defragment Windows, and at times it would tell you, hey, there's a portion that can't be defragmented. It's so fragmented we can't put it back together. That's basically what data corruption is. The reason why you notice it more in Pastel than you do in anything else is because Pastel is made up of two components. It's made up of its interface, which is this, where you actually work in Pastel, and then it's made up of the database. Then it's made up of the database, which would be pervasive. Now, when we talk about Pastel, like people will be like, yeah, but Word is fine and I don't have issues here. Guys, those don't use databases, and Pastel is a live database that is always running. Now, because we live in a country where we don't have a stable power grid, corruption is actually inevitable, sadly. That's why if you're a single user, you can still get corruption. There's this misconception that only multi-users get corruption, and then we'll have single users going, why am I getting corruption? I'm a single user. Well, unfortunately, computers use power, and we live in a country with an unstable power grid. Now, guys, yes, you can use things like UPSs to minimize corruption. That does not mean it will eliminate corruption. It will minimize it, but it needs to be set up correctly. A lot of the time people go, I have a laptop, so I don't need a UPS on a laptop, and I have a surge protection plug, which yes, will help, but things like your switches are forgotten. You know, oh, I've put UPS on my server. That's awesome, but your network still goes down if it doesn't have a UPS. And a UPS is there to just allow you to make sure that that update happens where you're updating a batch with as few issues as possible, and then you can shut down. So guys, there's a lot that goes into corruption. We could spend the whole time talking about it, but that's not the point of this specific webinar. My point is it's a live data set. Corruption is going to happen, and depending on the level of corruption, that may be one of the reasons that you need to create a new company. Again, other reasons are you coming from other software, or maybe it's just you want to change your GL and it's such a mess that trying to go through it and correct it is not worth it, and you would rather start a new company, set up the GL like you need, and take on those balances. But you need to take on your balances correctly. So often, guys, when there are issues that arise and someone's taken on balances, it's often been done incorrectly. Now, I have run this webinar before on YouTube. We do have an actual video on take on balances. It is basically going to be this one. I've changed it a little bit though, because there I just showed you, hey, these are the reports, this is how you do it, and I created a lot of imports in order to speed it up. Guys, I've had people say that they were still confused by that, which is why I said this is going to be lengthy. Here, I'm going to do this as accurate as possible, but this may take us a couple of hours because take on balances is a very time-consuming process, especially if you've got to go and construct a brand new GL. So guys, for the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to look at the demo company exactly as it is currently. So the first thing that you need to be aware of is you need to go into your setup periods, because you need to know, okay, from where am I taking these balances on from? So my last period is March 2022. And as I can see, guys, I actually have transactions up until March 2022 because my start is grayed out. But there's a chance that it's only up until the end of Feb, and I can just do my balances up until the end of Feb. I technically could ignore the March transactions and rather reprocess them because it is safest to do take on balances at year end. If you're going to do it, unless you absolutely have to do it at some strange time because of some weird error, we do advise if you are going to do a planned take on balances, please do it at your year end so that you can take on those closing balances so that your opening balances for the new financial year are correct. I'm running 13 periods, which means that my year end is actually March to February. So I would want to run all of my reports as at the end of February. But now that we've established that, yep, that's my period, that's what I'm doing, then you need to run the report. So the first thing that you need to do is, and guys, obviously if it's other software, you're going to need to not follow my steps. You're going to need to go to your TB in your software and pull the reports based on their filters. But in Pastel, I would then go to View General Ledger Financial Reports Trial Balance. I should be worried that there are unupdated batches because I might need those closing balances. So if we have this, guys, you are going to need to go in and actually check, okay, why do I have this? What is going on? And you are going to want to check. So for example, I know that I've got tax invoices and I need to check what these tax invoices are. Are they for the current period? Yes, they are. Should this be updated? Should it be deleted? So much like when you're doing your year end, you go and check, hang on, is this part of my year end? Is this something that I should update? And if it's something that you should update, you need to do that. I'm in the demo. Unfortunately, guys, it won't let me. So in this case, what I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to make a copy company. Sorry, I did not realize that I'd already updated to this point. So I'm going to close this. Guys, in the demo company, it only allows you to update up to 200 transactions. So done. So in this instance, guys, what I'm going to say is I'm going to say that I need to update them. If you choose to delete them, remember you still have to update deleted invoices. Although if you are doing take-on balances, does that matter? Not really. It's not a year end, so it's not going to tell you, hey, you have open balances, but please make sure if it tells you they're open batches, are they part of the balances I need to take on? If they are, please update them. And if they're not, then you can remove them. So basically, I updated my, oh, sorry, guys, I placed those on hold. That's why they're not. If you do that, guys, and you see exactly what happened, that it keeps telling me that I still have an open batch. The reason for that is probably because they're on hold. Now, in this case, there are only 2, but if I have on hold documents, again, I need to check, is it part of this batch? If it is part of this batch, then you can just use the on hold assistant and you can take them off of hold. It's the quickest way to do it. And guys, as I said, this will be a long webinar because I've tried to put all of the issues that could happen when doing take-on balances that I've seen when people's take-on balances are wrong have occurred. So like they didn't include all of the transactions. There were ones on hold and they thought they had updated them. So the way to see that was when I went to view open batches, I told it to update, but as we saw, it said tax invoice. So that immediately tells me, but I updated that, so they must be on hold. You could either select them one by one and untick the on hold, or if it's a large batch, just use the on hold assistant. And then again, guys, you can go and update it. Because what should ultimately happen is it should remove. Then you can also have a look. If you are a supervisor, you can jump to the batch. So again, we're having a look. And guys, as you can see, this document itself is deleted, but it's still in an open batch. And the reason for that is because it's not updated. You have to update deleted documents, because if you come to your supplier invoice Zoom, it should say no records found. If it tells you that there were records found, but it tells you that the document is deleted, you haven't updated it. So you have to update your documents. And then, guys, lastly, it's telling me that I have a cash book batch. So I can have a look and see, okay, is this something I need? And I can either choose to update the batch, or I can choose to delete the batch. So I'm choosing to delete it. I'm checking both sides. And then I can close. And guys, hopefully now I don't have open batches, because technically you shouldn't take on batches with open batches, or take on balances with open batches. But remember, that only applies if these batches make part of those take on balances. So check out your open batches, see what you need to do with them. Do you want to update? Do you want to delete? Do you want to leave them because actually they don't matter? Because an open batch hasn't written to the GL yet. Totally fine. I prefer to have it neat. I would prefer, if I don't need it, to delete those batches and be like, hey, I don't need this info. It's not part of my take on balances, or to update them because it is. And I would prefer to not have that information. Guys, then, as I said, we need to go and we need to have a look at our report. So the main report that I'm going to look at is my financial trial balance report, and I'm going to run it for a specific period. So I'm running it up until my year end, which is February 2022. And in this instance, I can print to screen, and it's going to give me all of my take-on balances that I'm going to need. And basically what I normally then would do is I would print to PDF. So either what you can do is rerun, and then you can say print to PDF, and we're going to say okay. And then, guys, you need to choose where you're going to put this. So for instance, I create a folder on my desktop called Take On Balances, and I'm not going to call this Trial Balance PDF, and I'm going to save it. Now, guys, you can also get these reports from your accountant. So you can be like, hey, I need my trial balance. And then the other reports that you're going to need is you are going to need your age analysis for your customers. And guys, you don't need it with the transactions. So basically, you just need to know what the periods are. I'm going to say to screen again. I'm going to leave the start as blank and the end filled with Zs. Now, guys, I'm not going over all of the filters. And the reason I'm not is, again, if you're using a different program, me telling you the filters isn't going to work. But in Pastel, if you want to run it for everything, which you should, your filters should pretty much look like this. Every customer aged, monthly, customer sorted by payment terms. So I prefer payment terms, and then I would do again February, and it's going to tell you for day-based customers, because basically it's doing month-based and day-based. So be careful with these here, because if you say aged monthly, you're just saying that you want your month-based customers. So I say based on payment terms, because it includes my month-based clients and my day-based clients, which Pastel allows you. I then do February, and here it's saying period end date. So guys, again, we're going until the 28th, 28/02, 2022, depending on if you use 2 days or if you use 2 places or 4 places for year end. Alternatively, you can just do that and then select your option. So guys, Once you've done that, you then choose your settings. What do you want it to show you terms from? Details, so you can put your details. That's if you need to know which customer it is. So if I had to do full, I'll show you what that looks like. And then guys, you want both here. You don't just want your debit or just want your credit customers. You need both because this is your aging. You're taking on balances. And then you can choose whether you want to print 0 items or not, because you're not going to take on the 0 items. I just say no. And then I say, okay. And guys, you can see that I don't have a lot of customers here, but it's giving me their full details. If I had to rerun this, I can say partial. That's what partial looks like. Or I can rerun and I can say none. Now, if I say none, it's just going to give me a list. But guys, again, it's just going to give me the codes. So it's not giving me their description. It's not telling me exactly which client. It's giving me specific codes. In your accounting package, if it's not Pastel, hopefully you know what this is. Then guys, this is giving me specific aging per period. And I can sort this aging out for the specific period. That would be the correct way to take on balances, but on occasion, guys, you might just want to take on the total in current. This is where you need to speak to accountants and go, do you want me to put it in as per the aging, which means you'll take it on at a specific date, which will age this 120 plus days, 90 days, 60 days, 30 days, or 7, 14. Technically, guys, all my customers are monthly, so I don't have day-based clients here, but that's how it would work, basically. And you, again, would need to print this so that when you are doing your customer take-on, you can do it correctly. And then, guys, you're going to do exactly the same for your supplier aging. View suppliers, monthly periodic age analysis. And guys, this time I'm just going to print to the PDF. And then, guys, you would also want a inventory valuation. So the reason why you need an inventory valuation is because of your items. So view inventory valuation, and you want to view your items. So again, if I had to print to screen, I'm literally selecting everything up until February, and it's going to give me all of my items that I would need to then enter. Guys, you can choose average or use last cost. That is up to you. But again, you also need to remember, if you are doing this, that there might be some variances. So just bear that in mind, please. But it is up to you which option you use, or if you're using another accounting package, what options you have. So please make sure that your filters are correct. Then we can say, okay, and guys, the last thing that you would technically need is your bank statement. So you would need a bank statement to know what your closing balance is, because you're going to need to take that on. And basically, those are the reports that you're going to need for taking on full balances. So guys, a lot of the time, we will get asked, how do I take on partial balances? Guys, to be very honest, you should never take on balances. It is incredibly dangerous. And if you are going to do partial take on balances, then you need to work with an accountant, and technically they should take it on for you. The reason being is that we at Sage are not actually accountants. We are taught how to use the software and how the software should behave in specific scenarios. But in terms of actual accounting, guys, none of the guys on the floor are going to be able to tell you, oh, you just need to take on the opening balances for your cash book. Great, the accounts you're going to affect are X and Y. Guys, we can't tell you that. We actually don't know. Yes, we know that obviously the bank GL is one of the affected accounts, but for every credit, you need a debit and vice versa. You need balancing transactions. And there is a second account that is affected. We do not know what that account is. Normally, we will tell you use the opening balance suspense account, and come the end of the year, your accountant needs to tell you where to go post that money. But guys, if you're going to do partial take-on balances, which I myself cannot teach you, I'm teaching you full take-on balances, please speak to an accountant and say, this is what I need, this is how I need it to work, can you help me? Because they need to tell you what the two GL accounts are and how you need to process that. But guys, once we have this, you then basically would create your company. Now, when you create a new company, we do advise that you do not use start new company. Now, a lot of people make this mistake. They go, cool, I'm creating a company, I'm going to start a new company. Awesome. Guys, the only reason you would start a new company is one, if you're an accountant, or two, if you want to spend 3 days setting up everything from scratch. And what I mean by that is you are going to have to create your financial categories. You are going to have to create your general ledger from scratch. This is the only time you can import a GL structure. But you will first need to create all the financial categories. Nothing is created in this country. There are no control accounts. There are no financial categories. There is no GL. If you are not an accountant or a CA, you should not use this option. You should use the setup assistant. Guys, everything is set up with entry types, with financial categories. And yes, there is a basic GL structure, but you can go change that structure. If you use the setup assistant, you will not be able to import your GL structure. So guys, the only import that will not work, if you go import general ledger accounts, if a general ledger already exists, you cannot import it. You can only import a GL structure into a company that does not have a GL structure. But again, if you are not an accountant, please use the setup assistant. It is going to be faster for you to restructure the already existing general ledger to your specifications than it is to set up a company from scratch with no entry types, no financial categories, no general ledger, no control accounts. Guys, unless you know what you're doing, that is days, if not weeks worth of work. Please don't do that if you don't know. So basically, I'm going to say take on, just because short folder name, and we're going to say create. What it's going to do is it's going to ask you a number of questions if you use the setup assistant, which is what I'm telling you to do. Guys, all of this can be changed later. So I'm not going to fill in everything. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. We have a video on this, but I'm going to point out the main things. So guys, generally in South Africa, we use day, month, year. I strongly advise that you stick to that instead of one of these others, because we also tell you to set your region language to day, month, year. You can choose 2 or 4 decimals. It's entirely up to you. And please make sure that you are entering the correct period. So I am going to set March as the start of my financial year, because I'm taking on balances. Yes, I'm going to take them in on last year, but last year will exist. So make sure this is correct. And then last day of the month or same day, up to you. Then guys, for your chart, as I said, I will skip certain things. You can watch the video. But for the chart, we have a number of charts here. Yes, they are generic in terms of what they choose. You might need something a little more specific, but choose the one that is as close to what you need as possible. And then you can go and alter that accordingly. Or whatever these are meant to be. So guys, for example, this might need to be national and international. Again, you can go and change these later, but you're going to enter these accordingly. Price lists, guys, you can change the descriptions. In Express, you have 3. In Partner, you have 10. Guys, from here, what it's going to do is it's going to open up and it's going to ask me to set up my password. Again, if you don't know how to do this, guys, we have a video on it. As I said, this is a long webinar, and I know I keep saying it, but I also don't want to waste your time. So there's certain things that I'm just not explaining. Please, for your security question and answer, please don't do what I've just done. I'm just doing that so that this is quick and I don't have to think of anything. Please don't do that. Please set it up properly for your own security and to meet GDPR and POPIA standards. So guys, now we're in a company. This is where you would go, and you would go, for example, edit general ledger accounts, and you would change your accounts accordingly. However, for take-on balances, you are going to need to do this for at least some of your accounts, because with Pastel, you cannot process to a control account. And what that means is that your customer control, your supplier control, your inventory control, and actually your bank should not be processed to directly. So you need to go and split your opening balance suspense account to, for example, bank suspense or GL suspense. And you can do this in whichever order works for you guys. I know there's a document, and in the other one, I might have done this a little bit differently. Then bank inventory suspense. And if I'm spelling suspense wrong, I apologize. Then you've got customers. And then guys, lastly, in my case, so we've got bank, inventory, customers, and we're going to have suppliers. And the reason for this is, as I said, you cannot take on to those control accounts. So when we come and we look at our trial balance, guys, we are going to look at this trial balance, and you can see that we have our inventory control account. I cannot take this on into my 7700 account. So I'm going to use those suspense accounts, and then that is the reason why I needed all of these, so that I can move this value from here or from the suspense account into this actual control account. So there's a very specific way to do that. But basically what you're going to need is you are going to need to have your trial balance open. So once you've created those, you are ready to actually start taking on your balances. So now guys, I'm going to minimize this just a little bit in the hope that I can do this really, really quickly, which it might take me a little bit of time. But in Pastel, you're now going to go to Process, Journals, and you're going to select your general journal. Once you're in your general journal, you want to go to Settings, and you want to make sure Tax Processing is unticked, as well as this year. You want to process in last year, and you're going to click on Close. You want to see last year, and you only want to see the debit, credit columns. You don't want to see a tax column, because you are not going to use tax. We then are going to select the 28th of the 2nd, 2022. Now guys, here you can see it says out of period processing. So technically what we should have done is just come here, selected period 12, and then made sure that we were selecting the correct date. If you don't want to ever process out of period, what you can do is go to Setup, Entry Types, and guys, you can change this to Date Sets Period. This does mean that you will never be able to process out of period unless you import your batches. Guys, it's something that I have asked Dev and said to Dev that we maybe need to look at. They do allow imports where the period is incorrect to the date, and it won't even give you the warning. But if this is set, that is the only way that you can do that. And then you just need to be aware of the fact that, you know, hey, if I'm importing, have I put my period column correctly? So guys, again, to show you that, you saw that I had to technically select the period so that I was in line with my date. You'll see the period is grayed out. So here you can just go 28/02/2022 and oh, sorry guys, my settings didn't take. Again, if you get that warning, make sure that this year is deselected and it says last year. And again, let's try 28/02. And there we go. So last year, only debit credits, done. Now guys, again, I'm just going to try to make my screen just a little bit smaller so that I can try to kind of enter this in. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to see that, so I'm probably going to have to flip between the two things, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is, because if I move it to my second screen, you're not going to see what's happening. So guys, the very first thing here is the retained income account. So hopefully your chart of accounts, the account numbers here are the same as they are in Pastel. I wonder if I can move that just across a little bit to make that a little bit easier. Okay, and guys, so here I know that mine are the same, so it's 5200. That'll just make it easier. I'm going to be take on 22001, for example. Now, guys, if in the settings you didn't say, for example, to increment reference numbers, I do advise that you do that, either yes or once. Yes is easier. Reason being is you don't want to have to basically enter the stuff all the time. And here I'm just going to go take on balances so that we know what it is. Now here I can see this is a credit. So I'm going to go to the credit side, and literally guys, now it's just data capturing. And I need to make sure that I enter the information correctly. And that's what I'm going to do. My next thing is my inventory control account. Now, guys, again, we know that for the inventory control account, we can't process to 7700 directly. So here's where I'm going to go and check my inventory suspense account. And I'm checking, okay, this is a debit. So we're going to take this balance into the suspense account. And we're going to just carry on processing until we get there. Guys, as you can see, my dates are wrong, so I realized that. So again, I just need to make sure that my dates are correct, period 12. Because it should keep it. And we continue. Then we've got the customer control, same thing, guys. We're just going to go and select the customer suspense. So please make sure you select the right one. Now, guys, what a lot of people, sorry about these horrible messages, what a lot of people will do is they will just take everything into the suspense account directly. So a lot of you might be thinking, you know, hey, why do I need to split my suspense account? Guys, the reason that I do this is if there is still a value. Okay, guys, it seems like the sound is gone. Please let me know if you have sound. So I'm just going to wait a moment. So guys, please advise if you can hear me. Sorry, I didn't realize the sound had gone. Okay, perfect. So guys, basically you're going to capture this, but now you can see again, I'm getting to bank. And so what some of you might be wondering is why I split it. And the reason that I split it is specifically because when I move these things from, for example, the suspense accounts into the actual control accounts that they're meant to be, if, for example, there's still a value in the suspense account, I will know, okay, actually this came from inventory, or this came from customers, or this came from suppliers, or it came from the bank itself. And I can then go and have a look and see, okay, where did I mess up? Why? Because technically, once we've done the customer take on, the supplier take on, the inventory and the bank, your suspense account should be 0. If it is not 0, we need to ask ourselves, okay, why is this not 0? For instance, guys, my eyes looked at the wrong thing here and I realized that, and my bank would have been totally out of balance there. So guys, it's really important, in my opinion, that you do it this way because it makes it a lot easier. Let's just go, because now I'm doing my supplier. Guys, as you can see, all that I'm doing is I'm actually capturing it as we go along. So I'm having a look and I'm going, okay, this is where I am. This is what I'm doing. This is what I need to be doing. Now, obviously, it's a little bit easier for me because all of my accounts exist, except for this one, which means that I'm going to have a problem with 800. So guys, in this instance, I can go and create my receipt control account. Now, obviously, this is if you're running receipting. So I can create it from here. And these are the types of things that you may come across. Now, as I said, you should go and create your GL account before, but maybe like me, you actually creating a new company in your Pastel, and you thought Pastel would have this account, so it didn't. Sorry. Guys, this is a balance sheet account because we're doing our balance sheet here. If you're not sure, okay, Flip, I can't remember what this was, you could leave it as unallocated for the moment. Just make sure that it's either income or balance sheet, because of course you need your TB to balance. The category here can be changed, and then when you run your TB again, it will show correctly. But you know, you need to know, is this assets, is this liabilities, where should this be? Is it other current liabilities, other current assets, for example? And even if you get it wrong, you can always change it later. So make sure that this is the most important part. Even if you're not sure what the financial category should be, you need to speak to your accountant and go, hey, listen, yeah, I see I have this account. I actually don't know what it is. I saw it was on the balance sheet side of my TB, but I didn't know what its financial category was. So guys, you can make it as you go. As I said, should be done beforehand, but if it's not, you can do it there. We're looking for 9540 or 9450. Never mind. I know that I've created it, so it's and guys, if you want that to stop, the balloon tips that keep coming up, you can just say show balloon tips and untick it. So that was irritating me personally, so I've turned it off. Then guys, there's kind of a, should you use your VAT control account to actually take on the balance too? Shouldn't you use it? Should you do it as an adjustment? Guys, considering it's a take on balance, that's something that you can ask your accountant. Maybe they would prefer one way or another, but I generally don't have a problem with taking it on this way because this value has already been included in your tax. Like this should not show on your tax reports actually. Sorry guys, I've entered the wrong value. 269,491. So guys, this shouldn't appear anyway in your like that as a value for you to either claim or be charged on. So I don't think taking it on like this is wrong. If we have an accountant here and it is wrong, please let me know. In my humble opinion, I don't think it's wrong. But I could be wrong, guys. So please check that with an accountant. Then, guys, we're moving on to the income statement. So we've done the balance sheet portion, and we can see that that gives us a value. Then we're going to move to the income statement. And guys, basically all that this part is, and the only reason I wanted to show it is so that you could see exactly how it works. All that we're doing is literally capturing what is on the actual PDF, and we're trying to make sure that we're capturing that correctly. Yes, we might make a mistake. We might enter a wrong value. Okay, so guys, as you can see, my consulting doesn't exist again. So in this case, I need to go and create this. And I know that it's income statement. I do know that this is a sales account, so it's fine. But if you don't know, again, it's fine to leave it as unallocated and find out. And guys, as you can see, I myself, like normally I would print this out, and to be safe, I would use a ruler because I myself need to actually check this and go, okay, hang on. Like guys, as you can see, I actually entered a wrong amount for sales. If I go and actually look at that, my sales should be that, not the net loss. So I've made a mistake there, and I actually need to come back and I need to remove this and enter the correct value. So I do not advise that you print a PDF like this and go, oh yeah, no, this is super easy. It is super not. It is very, very difficult to do it this way because there is a very good chance that you are going to accidentally, you know, put the wrong thing in. So like I need to actually check, okay, does that have a value? You know, does my online and telephonic support have a value? It doesn't seem to. Cool. What is the next thing? So guys, obviously I'm highlighting to try to make sure that I'm doing this as accurately as possible. But as you can see, this would be a lot easier if I had a ruler and this was printed out, because then you just move the ruler down and you can enter your value accordingly. Another way would be to not print the zero values. So I printed it with zero values. So that is also where a bit of a problem comes in. That's where your filters come in. So I have seen this happen. And obviously a lot of amounts were in the wrong place because, you know, a ruler wasn't used for whatever reason. So guys, no, I would not advise printing to screen and then trying to take things on. Guys, as you can see, as I'm slowly going down, all that I'm doing is making sure that I'm entering the correct accounts or the accounts that are equivalent to what I'm doing. And I'm entering the values in the correct place, whether it is a debit, whether it is a credit. That's what I'm trying to do here, guys. I'm just trying to check what's what, where stuff should be, and that's all that you actually need to do. So when I say a lot of this is just capturing, guys, it really is just data capturing. That's literally what you're doing. You're just data capturing what's here. The main thing was to remember that control accounts cannot be written to, so it's always in the balance sheet that comes up. And honestly, guys, that's where you go to your suspense accounts. But otherwise, you just make sure that you are entering it as should be done. Then, guys, once you are done, so technically I'm done. And as I said, I did try to use rather a small TB because otherwise this takes forever and we only at the beginning. Once you are done, what you want to see in Pastel is you want to see it say in balance. If, for example, I had missed this transaction, you would see that it would either tell you, hey, this is a credit or this is a debit. And by that rationale, you should then be able to hopefully go and just find, in this instance, it is one little transaction that's wrong, but you can then go through and see, oh, did I say 9.6 instead of 9.5, or what happened? Because if this does not say in balance, you've taken on your TB wrong. You need to go through and you need to check your values. Again, guys, it's why it's really important to rather have a printout with a ruler, with a highlighter. So as you go, you're highlighting and you're making sure that that TB is correct. Now, guys, the moment I move off of this line, my options are going to become available and I can update. Now, guys, if I'm choosing to update this batch, there is an option to back up before updating. Please do that because, guys, you don't want to come back here, something's wrong, you made a whoops, you actually, although everything was in balance, as I said, if you were doing it like me on the side here going, okay, let's have a look, you don't want to suddenly realize, oh my God, I took everything to the wrong place. This isn't how this was meant to look. I made a mess up. I shouldn't have done it this way. Shoot, it's actually easier to restore and rather fix than it is for you to now have to delete that company, reset it all up, make the backups, guys. I back up after each stage of doing take on balances. Basically from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to now go view, general ledger, transactions, sorry, financial, trial balance. And basically, guys, we're going to view it for not this year, for last year, because we took it on until Feb 2022. And guys, basically, if I look at this, for all intents and purposes, if I compare these two reports, they should be almost identical. There is, of course, going to be a small difference. And the reason that there's going to be a small difference is because a lot of my values are sitting in my suspense account at the moment, which I need to understand. Like that is sitting there and it says one value. So these will be in my suspense accounts, but technically this should be a mirror image of what I see here except for the suspense account. So if I look, it should all balance. I should be able to see what's happening and I should be happy with that. As long as that is fine, guys, you have taken on your general journal correctly, and that is the first step. Now, the next step is choosing, okay, I need to take on my bank balances or my customers or my inventory or my suppliers. You can do that in whatever order you want, but now you need to do that. And there is a specific way to do this. So we open up our customer age analysis. And guys, we are now going to go and process our journals again, but this time we are going to do a customer journal. Not a sales journal, not a sales credit, a customer journal. And again, guys, if we are looking at this, we're going to go to settings. We don't want tax processing. We want debits and credits. And we want it for last year because we took these on in last year. Yeah, we want to increment our references, and I am going to invoke the open item. And we're going to set the contra account to our customer suspense account, and we're going to say close. Now, guys, a lot of people come here and then they go, but I don't have accounts. Logically, please go and create your customer and suppliers. Now, guys, if you are using Pastel, you can export those. So, for example, I could have done this. I could have exported those things and imported them. And that's, again, very purposeful why I did this. It's to show you how to do that. So if you are creating a company from Pastel, you're going to go into your old company, export, import. And guys, while you can export your general ledger accounts, remember, if you have a general ledger set of accounts, you cannot import it. It does not matter if some of those GL accounts doesn't work, Pastel refuses the import period. You have to go and edit general ledger accounts, and it's a very manual process. I'm sorry about that, but luckily for your customers and your suppliers and your inventory, you're going to select export, customer accounts. I call this customer master.csv. Guys, make sure it is a CSV file. I'm going to say save, and I'm going to include file names, and I'm going to go process. It's going to ask me my range, guys. I literally select everything. So category start is the first one, category end is the last one, blocked, unblocked, I say both. Look, obviously, if you have blocked customers, I don't advise importing them. So you can't just say unblocked only because they were blocked for a reason. You probably don't want them. If you have zero value customers, you can also go through the CSV and remove them if they are not active customers. But guys, basically I select everything and I'm going to go OK, and it's going to export. I then would export my supplier accounts, and I'm going to very much do the same thing, except I'm going to call this Supplier Master CSV. And I'm going to go process, and again, I'm going to choose everything. And then, guys, I'm going to choose my inventory items. And you guessed it, I call mine Inventory Master. Oh, sorry, guys. Inventory Master. I don't really want to open it. I just want to, okay. As it's being wacko, so. Unless I put import there. Sorry, guys, I said import. Please make sure that you say export. I didn't realize I'd done that. Because you're exporting, you want to create the file. Obviously, when you import, you need to import it. Again, I select all my options accordingly, and I say, okay. Now, guys, in this instance, I had multi-stores. So with stores, it is important that you go and create your stores accordingly. So here I see I had Cape Town, Durban, and Johannesburg. I need to make sure that in my new company, I have that. You cannot set up your stores, you know, by importing them. To my knowledge, I could be wrong, guys. I stand corrected if I'm wrong. I normally, because they're not a ton of stores, it's normally just something that I do. I just go and I will set up my multi-stores and I will fix that. Although, guys, again, if you don't have multi-stores, then with your inventory, you're going to go and remove the stores option. So here I would go set up inventory. If I am using multi-stores, you have to set this up per company. You're going to go other and you're going to select that you want to use your multi-stores. That's simple, guys, a tick. You then will go to inventory and you'll see your stores. And guys, I now need to basically create my stores. So I'm going to go Cape Town for. And guys, again, make sure that it's defaulting to the correct thing. If I remember correctly, that should be my stores done. Then to import, guys, it's the exact same place. Import, export. You're going to go import inventory or import customers, import suppliers. I untick map fields and I go process. Now, guys, if you get errors, you'll see that the inventory category does not exist in this instance. So if you have categories, you also need to either import those. So again, file, import, export, or if you are not using those categories, that is where you go and navigate. And guys, this is not actually a whole lesson on importing and exporting, but that is where you're going to go where they are, and you need to go and change that layout. Guys, this also happens if it goes 0 items imported. So on occasion, it might not give you the error, but it's going to tell you 0 items imported. Now, if it tells you that, it means that somewhere here, something is very, very wrong. Now, I generally do like having the headings because I like to be able to go and actually find the correct column without having to go into Pastel and checking where this is. But guys, this only works if you were using Pastel in the first place. So I know that my inventory category, I think, is here. And guys, basically, for heaven's sakes, this is the one way of doing it. If you don't want to use the category, you can just make it all 0 and we can save. Guys, then there are certain columns like AJ and AB where you have to format the cells, custom, and you have to put 3 zeros. My stores, I don't have to do that with because I use letters for the code. But if you use the code as 001, which is the default store, 002, 003, you will have to do that. You then save this and you leave the file open for inventory. When we import, it should import correctly then. So guys, as I said, certain of these things I've left because these are the issues. Sorry, I meant to just say close. These are the things that often happen when people phone in. They're like, but none of my codes are here. None of my things are here. Yeah, guys, that stuff needs to exist before you take on balances. But you can still do the general journal part without that stuff being there, because that's been a freak out for some people. They're like, oh, I did the general journal, but my customers aren't here. My suppliers aren't here. My inventory isn't here. And guys, I totally get it. Like, taking on balances is stressful, but it hasn't broken anything. Do not worry. It hasn't broken anything. It's okay, guys. I forgot to untick map fields, so it'll ask me about mapping the fields. I'm going to say cancel. I'll do the map fields for suppliers just to show you how it works. But guys, honestly, if you want to know what it should be, my advice to you is go into the demo, export their customer master, include the headings, delete all the information, and then put your information in there. If you are not creating, if you are not taking on balances from an old Pastel company. That is my advice to you, because that is the easiest way to know that it is correct. In my humble opinion, like, I feel that's the easiest, but if you do map fields, you do at the very least need to have a code and a description. You can leave the rest. You can see mine, because everything is correct, it has selected it. But basically, guys, column A needs to be the account number, column B needs to be the description. You then can literally sit and map this, but guys, if you keep getting errors, we are going to tell you, please use Pastel's layout, because this is becoming cumbersome. If you do map the fields correctly, it should import them correctly. So guys, as I said, it's not a train smash if you did not have those things created before you took on the balances. You import the master files, yes, in order to continue after the general journal. Guys, you absolutely do need to have imported your master files. But once you've imported your master files, then as I said, you can now do your customer journal. In doing your customer journal, you have to make sure that your settings are correct again, and that the contra is the customer suspense account. So once I've done that, again, guys, I can see last year isn't there, so I need to make sure that it says last year. Now, in my instance, I can't change the period because I've set date sets period. So I just enter my period and it will change automatically. And now, guys, based on my aging, I can choose my account, which hopefully is exactly what I had. So this is ABB029. And guys, again, I give this a reference. For example, take on customers 001 and take on balances. Now, guys, this is where, again, you need to speak to your accountants and say to them, look, I've got aging, I've got 120 days, because you're going to have to work out on a calendar 120 days from the 28th of February. So you're going to have to go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 120 days. This was probably done somewhere in August or somewhere in July. And guys, you're going to have to do that. Could you print the transactions and see the actual dates of the transactions? Sure. But this is where you're going to have to, for example, choose, because either you can take it on as at the 28th, or you're going to have to take it on correctly based on, okay, that was that value 120 days ago. So this needs to be, for example, on the 1st of the 8th, 2022. And guys, I'm really hoping that I'm right in my math. Sometimes I myself do get this wrong, hence why we, oh, sorry, not 2022, 208, 2021. Because, guys, we then need to also know, okay, is this a debit? Is it a credit? Now, guys, if it's a positive value, to my knowledge, if I'm remembering correctly, that's a debit. A negative value is a credit. And basically, then you're going to need to enter that as a debit or a credit. And guys, you're going to do this for each value. So 30 days, that would have probably been in January then, because, so again, you need to kind of guesstimate, unless you absolutely know where this is. And you're going to do multiple lines for each aging period. That is the one way to do it. And again, is this a debit? Is it a credit? And you're going to enter your value. And guys, you do that for each aging period. So here, ACK001. And this is in current. So here I can probably do, for example, 28/02/2022 because it's in my current period. And guys, this is what you're going to have to do. So this is the one way to do it. I'm going to see, okay, this is actually a foreign currency customer, as is the top one. But guys, that part of it I'm leaving. Please set up all of your modules correctly. This is the Rand value, so I'm just entering the Rand values. And I'm going to put this on because it was 6 months ago. And now guys, in this instance, this is not necessarily going to balance at the bottom. What you're hoping is that this shows the correct value as per your trial balance for your customer master. So you want to find the customer control account and you want to check. Now guys, this is telling me a different value. So if I see this, I'm kind of like, okay, something is wrong. There should be a debit, but I'm missing like 5 grand. So where exactly am I missing 5 grand? Did I have a problem somewhere in my aging? That type of thing. And I'm going to need to recheck my aging. Is there something that I didn't put in? Is there something that should be here that isn't here? Because this is saying that's what it should be, but it's not showing that. So guys, that's where I now need to check. And as far as I know, I did technically put it correct. So guys, I might need to do a little bit of investigation because probably something's gone wrong, but let's say this is correct. We would update this journal and I always make a backup. Because my thing is I can see there's an issue, but I don't understand where my issue actually is. I kind of trusted that that value was correct, but I think it might be this value not taking that into consideration. Nope, it should be. So I'm not sure why. But guys, basically at each point, your main objective is to come and view this trial balance then, and you're going to view it for last year. And what you actually want to see in the TB is, so obviously this is incorrect because as we can see here, you know, my customer suspense still has a value in it of 5,100. So 5,100 is somewhere here. Something is wrong with this value, guys. I'm assuming it's probably the foreign currency values, and you shouldn't have this problem unless it's foreign currency. Foreign currency customers should be taken on in their currency. So I'm assuming this is probably where the issue is coming on. I'm sorry, that was accidental, just so you know. I should have taken on a straight company, but it's something for us to understand. Oh, maybe I messed up, guys. Sorry. Someone pointed out my mistake, which I did not even notice. Thank you. You could be absolutely correct. They said that I put the 2.5 as a credit instead of a debit. So guys, if you see this, what is the easiest thing for you to do? The easiest thing in this instance is to go File, Restore, because guys, if you do see that, and I couldn't even see that I'd done that. Thank you so much to the person who probably saw that I'd made that oops. I honestly didn't see it. Even the best of us, not that I am the best at this, I just have done this training a lot, but even we too make mistakes. So if that's what I did, thank you so much for seeing that, because I so didn't pick that up. So yes, guys, that so should not be there. Of course, it is meant to be a debit. You are absolutely right. Thank you. That is to 550. Okay. And there we go, guys, now it's showing correctly. So thank you so much for seeing that. I really didn't understand why the system was doing that. But guys, as you can see, it's so easy to make a mistake, put it on the wrong side. And honestly, I probably would have found it eventually, because normally I use the ruler, check, should it be there, should it be there? But obviously I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible. And you can see it was way easier for me just to restore that backup than it was for me to have to now do a reversal, to redo it, guys, that's when you go down the rabbit hole of doing reversals. But basically, once you've corrected that, what you want to do is you do want to go view that trial balance. And guys, basically what you should see is you should see this start to become the way that it should be. So now we can see that while the customer suspense is here, it's empty, and our customer control should have that value, the correct value. And guys, this is how the principle of getting it into the control accounts works. So that's how your inventory works. That's how your bank works. That's how your suppliers work. It all works on that pretense. So here we would go to process journals, and now we're going to select our supplier journal. And guys, again, with our supplier journal, go into our settings, untick this here, untick tax processing, and make sure that our contra is set to the supplier suspense. Guys, once you are done with taking on your balances, please remove the contras, because you don't want to as well be doing customer and supplier journals and you forgot that when you took on balances, you were contraing these accounts. Look, hopefully when you're doing those journals, you are putting in the correct contra, but I do find sometimes that has caused issues. So that is a step to remember. When you're done, change this back to zeros, because again, you don't want to accidentally make an ops, to be honest. You don't want to be like, oh, shit, I completely screwed this up now. But again, guys, if we're here, we can either do it by just going in the specific way that we did, or you can age them accordingly. So in this instance, this is COM001. And this was 30 days ago. So I know that this should, for example, be January. And that should then age it. Take on suppliers. And guys, you don't have to make your references the same as mine. That just tells me what I'm doing. So your references really should be something that makes sense to you. And again, guys, is it a credit? Is it a debit? Positive is a credit because we owe customers that, and the negative is a debit. If I'm correct, which I should be, and our next account is SOF001. And days is in current, so I could do, for example, either 28th of the 2nd or even the 1st, as long as it falls within Feb, which is the current month. No, sorry guys, don't put a minus. That was me literally entering what was there. And then guys, again, at the bottom, what we want to do is we want to make sure, okay, is this a credit? Because when it's a credit, that means you owe your suppliers. Is that the value that I see? Yes, it is. Okay, great. And then we can update the batch, making sure that we obviously make a backup. Then guys, the inventory is exactly the same way. Let me know if you want me to keep going, because guys, as I said, this is a long webinar. We're already at 11:30. I still need to take on my inventory and my bank. I desperately want to show you how the bank works, because there's a specific reason why you do the banks in a specific way. But guys, I need to know if you want me to do inventory as well, if you're happy to stay on, because we're probably only going to finish then at 12, or if you just want me to show you the bank because you understand the premise of inventory journal, settings, set the inventory, suspense account, and then you just take on the values with their quantities, with their amounts. Let me know if you want me to show you that as well, but I'm going to quickly show you the bank. So guys, with the bank, obviously you would have a bank statement. I don't have that. I'm just going to use my TB. But guys, you would need to take it on in the bank, in the account that is using that account number. So for example, my national bank, and then I need to know, is it a debit or a credit? And this is where I get confused. I think that debits are always a credit value or are a receipt value if I'm correct. And again, guys, in the settings, we're doing a similar thing, but it's a little bit different because your contra is always the bank. So while we are taking off this here and increment references by the GL here, so 2802-2022, here is where I'm going to select my suspense account for my specific bank. So that's where this differs slightly, and it's not the same as the others. Here you enter that, take on bank. And guys, at the bank amount, I'm then going to enter my value. And guys, the reason for this is that you need to take this on in the bank that they are in, because you need this included in your bank recon. If you take this on via a general journal directly to the GL account of the bank, it's going to be excluded in your bank recon, and your bank recon is always going to be out by the opening balance. So you need to please bear that in mind. And this is why I wanted to show you the bank, because it's a little bit different. So you take it on that way, and you have to use the actual bank account you are using, or else it will not work correctly. It will be incorrect. So that's where it works differently. Here you need to enter the value. This is, if I'm correct, sorry guys, if I'm correct, that is I just want to make sure that I'm using the correct one. Yeah, that is what I used. Take on balances, for example, 2. And guys, this is just so that it shows in my bank recon, because obviously that value is part of my bank recon. I would need to know that I've done this, or I would need to come in, reverse things, and do it correctly. As I said, I do get confused with the banks between the debits and the credits, if it's a receipt or if it's a payment, but I'm hoping that I'm right in how I've done this. I will see very quickly, and then I can do the reverse of it if I've messed up. I did not, I think, do a backup, but that's not a train smash. Yeah, I was right. So guys, as you can see now, this has come to the correct thing, and my bank is wrong. So the only thing that is left, okay, somehow, as you can see, there's a value in my Supplier Suspense. So guys, I would need to go and check why that is, or what exactly I did. There my general journal is. It had a very different value. So I've got maybe a value that I forgot, but this is why it's important to know this. I can now see this and go, wait, I did my suppliers wrong. How did I do them wrong? Did I not have a full list? Because I might not have. So I just need to recheck that. But guys, inventory works in the same or similar manner. Yeah, thanks guys for the people who picked up the 2550. Thank you so much. I can't believe I missed that, but it just shows you how easy it is to miss. And as you guys saw, I totally fixed that. So guys, the inventory works in the same way, and the way that this is why I do this. I can now clearly see, hang on, there's a problem with my suppliers. I can see that I took this on through this specific value, but I did something incorrect here now. What did I do incorrect? Why is there a value? What am I still looking for? Because technically those should have minused each other out and they didn't. And I can now go and have a look and see why that occurred. Why did this happen? Why is it not tallying correctly? And this is why we do that, just so you know. But in a perfect world, if we do these things all correctly, and guys, very quickly, and I'm not going to do it because people have said, look, they understand the concept now. Basically, again, you would just, sorry guys, you would go process inventory journal. Just because the inventory journal screen is a little bit different, but guys, you just auto increment references, do not repeat narrations. So what that means, and this is why I just wanted to advise you of that, what narrations means is that if, for example, I select this inventory code, it's going to, no matter what inventory code I select, call it accounting software. That is very confusing when you're reading your reports. So please don't do that. But here by the GL account, this is where, guys, you're going to have to come and you're going to have to select your inventory suspense. So it's by this account. So basically, if you know it's 9990002, basically, let's say this is 109 and the unit price was 100. Guys, obviously, I'm not reading my actual thing, but as you can see, I can then come through here and I can basically select my stuff accordingly. Now, in this instance, I would obviously select this, and you can see that I've got my Cape Town over there, and it's telling me that Cape Town had 20, and sorry guys, I can't see where my mouse is and it is driving me mad. It is telling me that my cost was 0, just so you know. This is seriously irritating me. Sorry about that. Yes, I know, go away. But guys, basically you're going to enter it exactly as it's shown, and it's based on the valuation. And over here, this is where you are going to select that specific account, and then you can just carry on going. So here, again, it would be that. So this is a little bit more time consuming, guys, just so that you can see, because this isn't, you can't set it as much as you can the other. Obviously through trying to rush, because I realize this webinar is taking forever, I've messed up a bit. So guys, you can't do multiple periods with your inventory. Again, for example, take on inventory 0001. Guys, like this is ultimately what you would do. And yeah, it's going to give me a warning, but unfortunately, as per my valuation, apparently these things had a 0 cost. Now, this is where using last cost could come in, because my last cost could have been 0, but my actual average is like 1,200. So guys, basically it's as simple as this. I do not like that I can't see my mouse at the moment. That's very irritating, to be honest. So inventory is a bit more, but it's the same concept, guys. It's going to take the value out of your general ledger control account or out of your suspense account. It's going to put it in the inventory control. And then when you view that TB in Pastel, hopefully you won't have anything in those suspense accounts. It will zero them out and it will show in the control. And guys, this is how you correctly take on all balances. As I said, if you are going to take on partial balances, I do ask that you speak to your accountant. You make sure that they are giving you the correct GLs to affect, because a lot of the time, and a very common mistake people make, is that they will go and they will actually, especially with the bank, they will do a general journal to the GL account of the bank. But then when they're doing their recon is always out, because your bank recon only ever includes transactions that have been processed in that general ledger, in that cash book. So guys, what I mean by that is, even if you are in a cash book, if I put the amount here of, for example, my other cash book, if I do a recon, it will not include the payment of 10,000. So it would be a receipt to my 8400. It will not include that 10,000 because this is considered direct processing to this bank account. You have to be in the cash book for that bank account. So again, there's a right way and a wrong way to transfer money between bank accounts. Videos on YouTube, guys, tells you how to do it, but that's why we do it this way. You need to do it to the suspense account and then either receive it into the bank or pay it from the bank, so that you zero out that suspense account and it is included in your bank recon. So guys, that being said, does anyone have any questions? Was this demonstration fairly straightforward? Does it make more sense? I do advise that you watch both of them, the one that I did before as well as this one when I put it on YouTube, if you need a refresher. But guys, please let me know in the questions section whether this made sense. I did rush the end a little bit just because I see, guys, we're heading to like 12 o'clock and I'm sure that you all have stuff you need to do. But let me know if that made sense, if there's anything you need me to go over in more detail. But this is how you fully take on balances. Please let me know your thoughts, guys. Otherwise, to those of you who are happy, you don't have any questions, guys, that is this webinar. That's how you take on balances. I do hope that you found this informative, and I hope that I will see you at the next session. Thank you so much for joining me.